Let's cut right to it. If your business is feeling chaotic and your default response is, oh, I just wish I had somebody to help me out, I want to challenge that, because a lot of the times you don't need more people in your business. You don't need an ever expanding headcount that you have to pay for. You just need to double down on creating the right workflow. So let's talk about what more help in your business looks like. A lot of the times people hit a milestone in their business, like 6 figures, and it's great. They're making more money than they've ever made before, oftentimes as a solopreneur or as somebody who has a really small team. It's an amazing feeling, but what often comes with that is your inbox feeling completely full, your calendar looking jam-packed, and on top of that, you just feel like everything is on fire and everything is urgent. So the next step that so many people take is that they end up hiring a contractor or two, maybe somebody who is a virtual assistant, otherwise known as a VA. But then what happens? Things are supposed to feel easier, but they don't. And the reason being is you actually find you have more work on your plate. Why? Because you are now managing people, you are fixing their work, their mistakes, you're answering questions nonstop, but at the same time, it doesn't actually feel like anything is moving faster. So why does it feel that way? And that is simply because delegation isn't the fix. Delegation isn't your first step. Focusing on your workflows is. Because here's the thing, if you're hiring into chaos, it just creates more chaos. Like 1 + 1 is 2. Before you go and do all of that and check the box, that honestly is another major milestone for a lot of business owners. A lot of business owners like the feeling of saying that they have a team, like the feeling of saying that they just made their first hire. But it's not actually the first step that they should be taking in order to achieve more growth in their business and more peace in their business. So before we jump into the signs that you have a workflow problem, let's just start off by even defining what a workflow is. A workflow is very similar to a process, but it's not exactly the same thing. I talk a lot about processes on this channel, but let me break down how a process and a workflow is different. So a process is very much so the what in terms of what needs to be done. So for example, if you are creating a client onboarding process, it is the what of needs to be done. So a welcome email needs to be sent, a contract needs to be signed, a deposit needs to be provided. It is the what in terms of what needs to happen. But the workflow, it is most oftentimes a visual representation of the how. So we're taking that what needs to happen and we are breaking it down into further details in terms of how it happens and when it happens. So with that same example of a client onboarding, let's say when the deposit is received, the workflow breaks down that once the contract is signed, then a specific tool triggers that payment is then sent and requested from the client. And then after payment is received, again, there's some sort of other trigger and tool that says that a Calendly link is then sent out for the customer to book their first session. So instead of it just being the steps of what needs to happen, it is the how for things are actually happening, right? That includes what tools are being utilized, when they are being leveraged, and most oftentimes it'll also include the owner of each part in the workflow, right? So is the owner you? Is the owner a tool? Is the owner your VA? Or maybe the owner in a step is your client. So again, the process is the recipe, right? It's telling you all the information that you need, but the workflow is you actually in the kitchen and how you end up taking the recipe and turning it into a beautiful, delicious dish that you will consume, right? So it's how you move about the kitchen, how you start off collecting all of the different utensils that you'll need. It takes the recipe from something on paper to not only just a finished dish, but a beautiful dish, a dish that you can't wait to have more of. So let's talk about some signs for how you're going to know if the workflow is the issue in your business. And again, a lot of people think it's not having enough people, not having enough time. But this is how you're going to know if the workflow is the area of opportunity and what you should focus on. So number one is that your business is feeling busy, but you're not actually growing. So that looks like you doing more than ever, but your efforts aren't actually compounding into something tangible, into something that puts more money in your pockets and has a greater impact on your clients. Oftentimes, that is not a situation that requires more hands being on deck, right? It actually is a workflow inefficiency problem where you have to take a look at how you are doing things and if there is opportunity to double down on how you're doing things and transform that inefficiency into efficiency in order to cut back on the hours that you're spending in your business doing work. Number two is that there is no single source of truth. Talk about this all the time. I talk about how people often hire and expect somebody to read their mind, right? People often hire and they're disappointed that somebody isn't doing something the way that they've always done it, when they have never given them a clear roadmap or way to ensure that it's done. You have to have procedures, processes, workflows in place before anybody can come into your business and really get things done. Why? Because there needs to be a single source of truth. That source of truth can change, right? Like, it's possible that you bring somebody into your business and they help you with that source of truth and making it more efficient, which, by the way, if you are at that stage in your business where you are really assessing how you can get out of being stuck and making more money and working less, you can book a free coffee chat with me down below in the description box where we can talk more in detail about what this would look like for your business. But as I was saying, that source of truth can change, but needs to be pen to paper. There needs to be some sort of initial document that shows how things are supposed to get done. And very closely related to that is number three, which is that you are the bottleneck in your business. Nothing can move without you. And oftentimes that's because you hold all of the knowledge, you hold all of the keys, and nothing can get done without your permission. Nothing can get done unless you hand somebody a key to go unlock the next level of your business. But that's not only draining for you, draining for anybody who would be involved, but it's also just not the best use of time, right? It's inefficient. It's not the best way to do something. You have a role to play in your business that's really important. You are the CEO, right? And if you are still holding on for dear life when it comes to every single part of your business, this is likely a mindset issue, which I have some videos on that I will link down below and also up above. So let's talk about what a better workflow actually looks like and what you need to prioritize before you hire anybody. So here's the thing, your core work, those core tasks that you are doing daily and weekly, they need to have a rhythm to them. And most oftentimes they already do. You have a way of doing work, but it just hasn't been documented in any way before. I always give the example of a client that I had who literally told me that he has no processes. And my response to him was, you do, they just live in your head. So you need to take those processes that live in your head and turn them into workflows that are ideally visual. You can use so many different tools to do this. I personally love Miro when it comes to creating anything visual. I also use Notion a lot, but I think Miro is a great first starting place that you can access completely for free in order to turn these things that live in your head into visual workflows that will really map out how you get things done. Something else that's really important is that you centralize everything. Here's the thing, when it's just you and your business, it's okay if things live buried in your inbox or in Slack messages or wherever they are. But if you're gonna bring somebody into your business, eventually there needs to be a central place where all the information can be accessed. I don't know if you've ever started a job before and it feels like in order for you to get anything done, you have to ask somebody for access or ask somebody for permissions or go to somebody every single time you need something. It's incredibly frustrating. Nobody wants to be in that position, but a lot of the times they are, because all the information that they need to do their work does not live in a centralized space. So again, we're continuing on with this theme of everything living in your brain, everything living in your inbox, and it being more shareable and digestible for other people. And this can literally be as simple as using Google Drive. Like that is a really simple way to ensure that everything is living in a shareable place. Another key component is that decisions should be made before a task starts. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, before somebody gets started on a task, not only should they have all of the information and access to the relevant documents that they need, but decisions should be made around what success looks like. What metrics are being monitored? What is the purpose or outcome of working towards this task? So things like who's responsible, that can live in the workflow. Aspects like when something's due, again, all of this is information that will support a better flow. And an example of this is if you are somebody who does outbound sales, so you are calling or emailing prospective clients, that's something that you could easily outsource to somebody else, right? Like you could bring a VA into your business and have them do that sort of work. But there's so much around why they're doing that sort of work that they should also understand. Are there metrics that they're trying to achieve? Are they looking to hit a certain number of people that are being emailed in a week? Are they looking for a certain number of bookings that are on your calendar? All of that information should be also readily available to them so they understand what they're working towards. That way, it's not about just checking off a box and completing a task. It's about working towards a goal that is also tied to specific deadlines and milestones. And that ties into this next idea, which is build before you delegate. So imagine if you had actually taken the time to prioritize some of the things we've just discussed. You've not only built out a workflow, you have built a system. And here's something that's really important for you to remember. When you bring somebody into your business, you don't want to just hand off tasks. You want to hand off systems to them. That is the best way to have an exponential impact on your business. So listen, you're not broken, your business isn't broken, your team isn't broken. You just need better architecture, and a workflow is what helps you create some breathing room in your business for you to actually be able to take your hand off the wheel, take your foot off the pedal, and actually start planning for where you're going instead of just driving aimlessly. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button down below and don't forget to hit subscribe. It really helps. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.